Alright, I'm going to try to film a little bit of this belt grinder build. I've got a lot of pictures, but haven't had the camera set up and it's noisy, so I'll have to do a voiceover anyway. So I'm going to put a little bit of grinding in there and stuff like that. It's coming along, if you can see in the back. Let me go show you. So this is the grinder. It's got the Nordic Track engine. I built a DC motor controller. Had to shorten this frame down a little bit because it was off of the original treadmill. So I cut off about 6 inches there. Got it a little shorter. Welded these on. Still working on whether I'm going to use this because of its shape, or if I'm going to get a 2" by 2" square tube. But if I use this one, and then I put this bad boy in here with some shims, it actually clears the motor, so I can have a longer attachment tube on here. So that's what it'll be. I'm working on cutting this platen and the actual platen holder, and this stuff is must be pretty hard because it's 3/8, and it's pretty much the hardest stuff I've tried to cut to date. Kind of crazy. Jeez. I don't know if that's tool steel or hardened steel, or I don't know what the hell it is. So it's taken quite a while to cut and grind that. So I'll cut a little bit on it and then move along and show you some of the other building processes. Once I get this bolted on here and my wheels, and these were actually the wheels, interesting, that were on the track rollers. They were this 2" 2¼ inch ginormous long things. So I cut the ends off. They still have the bearings pressed in there, and I'm hoping they'll work without getting crazy and wobbly. I have 4 of those. I also got some cool little bearings that I'm going to use for a small wheel adapter, and I think these will work. Not sure, but I'll find out. I learned to wear welding gloves because my other work gloves, burned a hole through the thumb somewhere on here. Put a pretty big hole in it. Oh, there it was in the fingertip. So I'm going to wear these instead. I don't have a respirator and I can't find any of my dust masks, so that sucks. I'll hold my breath until I pass out. Okay, well, that will be the platen itself, and I'm also going to get either a glass or a granite one. I don't know if you can use granite, but I have a lot of it. So that'll be that part. Now I've only got another mile to cut out. I don't know if you can see those lines in there. Too much shit in here. There you go. We can kind of See, that's the layout of it. So, onward. Right. We have made progress. Kind of like that. There's some hard shit to cut. That looks better than a block of rusty old metal. Ow, hot. Right, so that's all I'm going to do today. So that's how I got this bushing to fit. Had to take down just a few thousandths, so it wasn't a lot. And thank God they're aluminum. So now I got my 3 bushings, because I couldn't buy these because I live on Mars. So I had to get these and then these to create that. So far so good. Do this less primitively. Sweet. And these bolts are the ones that have the nylon insert, so they kind of lock on themselves. Look at that bad boy spin. Can you see that? Let's just give it a spin. Pretty nice. Seems like it's not wobbling. I had made them a different way, and the bolts and the spacer holes and everything were just a little out of center, and it wobbled. So we don't want that. So cool. Let's do another one. Here's my spacers I drilled out. And put that on there. These fancy little washers that are kind of like race bearings, so they fit right onto the bearing itself. Let's take that wheel. Looks cool. Getting seasick yet? Put the PEX bushing on there. Now I don't think PEX is going to be a problem, because it really doesn't move. I mean, it doesn't spin or any of that. It's just inside that bearing. So I don't think it'll bother it at all. It won't get too hot. Now, if the bearing were to get hot, then it would start to melt that piece of PEX, and then I would see that I had a problem. But it really is inside this part of the bearing, which is the bushing, so it just spins in there. So I don't think it's going to hurt it at all. So that's where I'm at with that part. Now I got to get it attached to the whatever the fuck that thing's called, the belt sander, belt grinder. I still have to weld this on, but I haven't figured out exactly where I want it yet. This is basically the spacing I have depending on where I put it, and you can see I have a little less than that, but then this wheel is a little over 2 inches. I don't know if you can see that, almost 2 3/8. So I could move the belt over a skosh. Actually, here's a piece of belt that I broke. So I got a little bit of wiggle room in there before I weld it all on there. And I made this flywheel a little bigger, as you can see, by welding on a piece of metal that I twisted into a circle. But I didn't get it perfect, so I've had to do a lot of grinding on it, and it still feels like it's got a little bit of a wobble in it. Not a wobble, but just a little high spot or a low spot, and I don't know if that's going to affect it yet. Otherwise, I'll have to take that off and get a different drive wheel. But I really don't like doing that because I'm a cheap bastard. And I think this will work fine. I mean, I've seen people make them out of wood, so that should work. What else have we been doing? Got that, and so once I get that done, I still got my one last bearing here that I'm going to use for my my tracking wheel. And then once I get a belt on there, I can run it, and I can probably concave these a little bit as it's running from the backside with a file or a sanding pad, or even well, something. Fuck. So that should work pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I like these spacers in here more than a bunch of washers. And this is a pretty thick bolt, so it's not like it's a little wobbly ass thing. It should be pretty good. So like I said, this piece of steel here is 3/8, and I got that at a metal shop, piece of their scrap, and then polished it all up. These wheels were part of the treadmill roller system, so they were about 2.5 feet long. Each end had this bearing attachment, but I wasn't able to use the original axles because they were so long, and they hooked on differently. So I needed to create this system. Otherwise, I'd have had to cut the axle, weld it on here, hope it was straight, and then try to figure out how to pin that bearing on there. So what I did with these, I just bolted them on. I put some washers in there, made sure it was tight up against that before I spot welded it. So that way I knew they were square with the hole and everything like that. So seems like by the looks of it, we got it rolling pretty good. Alrighty. Alright, so you can see I've kind of organized a little bit. This is the progress so far on the belt sander grinder. I still have to get my tension wheel and tracking wheel on, and then obviously pretty it up and paint it. But looking pretty good. It rolls pretty good. Only problem I'm having is with this wheel that I kind of expanded. It tends to want to track toward the motor, and I don't know. I think I still have some more grinding to do on this side here and get it a little bit better shape. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take it off and just buy a drive wheel that's concaved and everything, or is that concaved? I don't know. So I've moved my welding cart over there, the work table, welding table there, and then I'm working on this pile of metal that was laying all around the place. So that's the progress of that, and the progress of the 72-inch belt grinder. And I think I showed you the controller setup, and that'll probably come off of here somewhere with a cool looking doodad, so it you know, it doesn't just look like hammered shit. You know, it'll set here, and then you can, you know, see the RPMs and turn it on and off and blah blah blah.
We made too many compromises already, too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back.
I'm your huckleberry.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
That's just my game.